In a faraway African village where red soil glows under the morning sun, lived two brothers whose hearts were as different as day and night. One was greedy and wicked, the other was kind and patient. This is the story of how destiny lifted the humble and humbled the proud. Sit down, relax, and listen to the tale of Obiora and Ikenna. Chief Obieze was a great farmer who lived in a big compound and had many farmlands. He had two sons, the eldest Ikenna and the youngest Obiora. Ikenna and Obiora were two boys running barefoot on the red soil, but even as children, their hearts were different. From a young age, Ikenna already carried the shadow of greed in his eyes. He was loud, proud, and covetous. He is the type of child who cries even when given the largest portion of food. My meat is small. Mom, look, Obiora's meat is bigger than my own. My fufu will not be enough for me. He will find every reason to complain, even as a child. He will push other children away when running, trying to finish first. He likes finishing first at every means necessary, even if it means hurting others to get there. Ikenna was a greedy eater. He would take all the fruits his father brought from the farm and leave none for his brother. Their father would say, Ikenna, this boy, you must learn to share and be fair with your brother. But Ikenna never listened. His heart was like a hard stone. Obiora, on the other hand, was kind, patient, and humble. He was the type of child who shares everything he has. Years later, the villagers mourned as Chief Obieze died and left his two sons. On the day of the burial, men and women gathered to bury Chief Obieze. Obiora wept bitterly at his father's burial. Ikenna, on the other hand, was already planning his next move. Weeks after their father's burial, Ikenna did not hesitate to make his move. In fact, he told his brother Obiora his plans to take over as the eldest son. You know, as the first son of this family, according to tradition, I should be in charge of the farmlands and everything our father owned. Obiora was shocked at Ikenna's statement. Their father's body was barely cold on the ground, and here he is, making assumptions of who is going to take over. But brother, don't you think it's too early for us to discuss matters like this? I think we should take our time to mourn the death of our father. There is no time like the present, said Ikenna with grit in his eyes. The earlier we settle this, the better for everyone. This compound and the farmland and everything that belongs to our father is mine as the firstborn of this house. Obiora couldn't believe his ears. He thought that if the matter was brought to the elders of their village, that his brother would have a change of heart. But he was wrong. Ikenna grew worse and cunning. He met with some of the elders secretly. Elders of our land, he said, my father left me so much money and goods. I will give them all to you if only you will stand by me as the first son to take over completely all my father left. The next day, the elders called a meeting. One of the elders stood up and said, my fellow elders, Ikenna here is right. As the first son, he deserves everything his father owns, the compound, the farm, and everything. Liar! Our tradition does not support greed, another elder said. Chief Obieze here had two sons before he died. It's only right to share all that belongs to him to his sons. The other elders ignored him. He looked at Ikenna and said, you have to share with your brother. That is the right thing to do. Careful, old man. Do not consign yourself in other people's business, Ikenna warned. But brother, this is not fair. Don't you think I deserve at least a piece of land to farm and feed my family? I'm also my father's son. Obiora said, all right, you can have the land before Annie's a village. He said, what? That land is infertile. Nothing grows on that land, and besides, it's miles away from the village, Obiora said. Well, that's all I can offer you. It's either you take it or leave it. Obiora looked at the elders with painful eyes. He wondered what he had done for them to treat him unjustly. Weeks passed. Ikenna took control. He kept the fertile lands and began farming. On the other hand, Obiora would walk miles to get to his farmland. He gathered dead leaves and poultry poops to make compost. He watered the farm regularly, made ridges, prayed, and started planting. The land became fertile, and his crops grew. Harvest time came. Ikenna pulled out yam so big that the whole village screamed when they saw it. When Ikenna and his brother saw them, his eyes turned red with greed. Where did you get so many yams from? He said. Did you steal them? I will never steal, said Obiora. I harvested these yams from my farm. Eh? How come? How did you do it? Ikenna asked, staring at the yam greedily. Well, since that land is very good, I think my cassava will do well on that land. You can have the land beside the stream, and I promise this time I will not interfere. Obiora looked at his brother and said, that land you are offering is always waterlogged. How do you expect me to grow yams and cassava there? Besides, father never used that land for planting. Life became very hard for Obiora and his family. They only depended on vegetables that could grow on their land. On the other hand, Ikenna and his family were living in plenty. They ate to their satisfaction at all times. One afternoon, when Obiora and his wife were working in their farm as usual, 3 white expatriates entered into the farm wearing helmets and carrying machines. Where is the village head? They asked. Obiora took them to the chief. You are welcome. What brings you people to our village? The chief asked. The spokesman stood up and said, these white men said they found something valuable on Obiora's land. What did you discover on Obiora's land? The chief asked. They looked at one another and said, we discovered crude oil on that land and it is very valuable. The villagers murmured in surprise. Ikenna stepped forward. But that land belongs to me. The chief said, no, it doesn't. It belongs to Obiora. Remember, you took 3 other lands and gave him that waterlogged land for farming. So this is his land. The whole village screamed and supported Obiora. Ikenna fell to the ground and held Obiora's legs. Please forgive me, my brother. I treated you like nothing. But Obiora stood there and said nothing. The next day, the officials returned with documents for Obiora to sign in agreement. They handed him a check with more money than he has ever seen in his life. With the money, Obiora bought a large compound at the center of the village, a new house with many rooms, a storehouse for his farm produce, and 2 motorcycles for easier movement. For the first time in his life, he slept well, and his family were well fed to their satisfaction. But even in his new wealth, he remained gentle and respectful. Obiora didn't waste his money. He bought 3 large farmlands and 2 palm plantations. He employed young men and women from the village to work on his farm, paying them well. While Obiora was rising like the morning sun, Ikenna was falling like dry leaves in Harmattan. Greed has eaten his blessings because he mismanaged his inheritance due to marrying many wives and spending lavishly. His workers left due to non-payment. His barns were empty. He sold off 2 lands due to fire outbreak. He even sold his father's compound and was forced to move to the hut where he once offered Obiora. The villagers, however, came to see Obiora's new home. It was a large compound with many rooms. Inside, there was a storehouse packed with yam, cassava, spices, and palm oil, more food than most families saw in a year. Meanwhile, Ikenna and his family lived in the old hut he once offered Obiora. The compound that he took from his brother had been sold, piece by piece, to solve his endless problems. His barns were empty, his pockets dry, and his name no longer commanded respect. And so, dear listener, the story of Obiora and Ikenna reminds us that a good heart never goes unrewarded. Greed may win today, but it loses tomorrow. If you were Obiora, would you forgive Ikenna? Should Obiora had helped Ikenna after everything? Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, and subscribe for more African folk tales.